All right, everybody. L'chaim, l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Yimlechem Shakel L'Vare. Amen. I want to show you. If you're not here, you could be. Everyone say hello.
Hello.
Hello. So you know, just so you know, by the way, that I'm not talking to myself, because it's not like I don't. Just today I'm not.
Did I tell you when you're an editor?
What I do wrong?
Show the faces.
Oh, show the face. Okay. Yeah, I'm only showing. I'm only showing because Asaf, doesn't want,
Got warrants. That's true. The person you want here is not here. So now we're all docs.
Right.
Now use Asaf.
Exactly. That's why I did a pan around the crowd. Otherwise, okay. Here we go. So, previously we learned that the nefesh halakis, the godly soul, is in the brain, right? The brain it can be defined as cool, calculated, reason. It acts because it makes sense to act that way. So it would only follow logically that the godly soul should be in the brain. Because if you think about what you're doing, you act godly. Where does the animal soul dwell? The animal soul dwells in the heart, because the animal soul is about impulsive. Animal soul is about feeling pleasure, which that's very animalistic. Now, the heart is the seat of emotion. So when you get excited about something, that's in the emotion. It's coming from the heart. Now, were the godly soul solely the domain of the brain, that you can never get excited about a mitzvah. You can only do it out of a cold, calculated act. You never get excited about a mitzvah. And being that this is 22nd day of Kislev, 22nd day of Kislev, and we just started the Tanya. We just started the new cycle of the Tanya. Everyone should take it upon themselves. I want to push Rabbi Gordon's Spotify class. It's great. It's like 20-minute classes, 20-minute classes. And if you want, you could put it on, 1.5, and you finish even faster. It really learned Tanya, and it's no, great. You don't have to be a genius. Everyone can understand it. Very down to earth. And you can listen in your car, or if you go jogging, if there is such a thing. Certainly, let's go jogging. Right? Yeah. So, Stanley's with me on this one. That's why I'm going to New York tomorrow. To walk.
To go jogging?
Last time I was in New York, I was walking. My Apple Watch said, we're recording an exercise. All I had to do was walking down the block. Anyway, so we explained that emotion is also, the godly soul also has a little bit entry, also has a little bit domain, also has a little place, a dwelling place in the heart, in the right side of the heart. Now, we're not getting into the biological. The place where there's more blood, that's the animal soul, that's where the emotion. And the place where there's less blood, that's where the godly soul. Now, Alter Rebbe says is going to come to one of the major points. We started in the beginning of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe writes in the beginning of Tanya, the first page, that serving Hashem is very close to you. And he said, "Beficha," to say it, that's easy, right? Anyone can go through the motions. And to do it is also easy. The problem with the verse that everyone has, when Moshe says the Torah is very easy for you, it says "B'vavcha" in your heart. That means you should feel excited. You have love and fear of God. But you're just telling me that there's love and fear for chocolate cake and for all the other good things. How can I have love and fear? How can I have love and fear of God? So, and that was one question. Another question we asked all the way back in the beginning was, how come it feels that I'm suffering from some kind of mental disorder, where sometimes I feel in love with God and sometimes I feel in love with cake? They can be more apart. And sometimes I feel like I want to change the world, I want to be better. And sometimes the only thing I want to do, I don't care about anyone else, I only care about myself. How could the same person feel such opposite feelings? Doesn't make sense. But then we started saying that there's a godly soul, and there's an animal soul. And the godly soul yearns for godliness, and the animal soul yearns for pleasures. And where does it come to a head? Over here. The problem is the animal soul and the godly soul both live together. And you only have one TV. So you want to watch sports, and your wife wants to watch one of those dating shows. You know, who's she gonna pick? You know, 50 Bachelors, whatever. I don't know, right? And I don't know. Do they have split screen? One could watch the game, and one could watch it.
One upstairs, one
They
downstairs.
used to.
No. It's only one TV.
TVs used to do that.
Used to do that.
They used to be able to.
So maybe in the old days they believed in harmony in the home. Now they say, forget it. Right?
Yeah.
Now, fight it out. It's more interesting, right? The problem.
It's the new Schlumbai.
So the problem is there's only the one TV. Your body could only broadcast one thing. Either it's broadcasting divine things that are directed towards the service of Hashem, or it's broadcasting selfish things. You got to make the choice. And it can't be equal, because either you're godly or you're selfish and entitled, and they're totally opposite. And this is why the Alter Rebbe is going to start off with our lesson today, page 138 in the old print, page 140 in the new print, quoting a verse from the Parshas Toldos. Let's give a background to the verse. When Rivka was married to Yitzchak, 20 years. No, not that's the old print, page 138. Yeah, he's good. He's good. On the left side, yeah. 10th of Tavis. Rivka was married to Yitzchak for 20 years. Didn't have children. And then she finally gets pregnant. And what does she do? I can make a joke or record it. I'm not going to say it. If only men watch the thing. I don't know if women watch it that much. I don't know. What does she do? She goes crying, says to a prophet, a man of God, woe to me. Why? Why me? What do you mean? You're asking for kids for 20 years. You got pregnant. What are you complaining? So this is where you need the Medrash. The Medrash says that when Rivka would walk by a house of service of God, because there were people who served God before Abraham. Mr. Shalach, how do you say him in English? I don't know. Musuth, thank you. Musuth. Metushalach. And there was Chanoch, I think it's Enoch, right? Enoch, right? I think so. Sounds like somebody you call somebody Enoch. I think so, right? There were people that served God. There was Shem. Shem is two different people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was the same person?
I don't think so. Could be. I mean, maybe in Midrash, but if you take the text, he's listed later.
I think it's like Shem is Shem, because he's like Noah's son, right?
Yeah.
And then after he like established himself, but like later by Abraham, we just called him Metushalach.
Mr. Shalach dies before Avram. Mr. Shalach
His
dies.
second name is by Abraham.
Who? Mr. Shalach? Aver? Aver is the grandson.
This is his grandson.
Malki Tzedek, you mean?
Malki Tzedek.
Malki Tzedek. Oh, sorry. All right. So you had people who served God. So when Rivka would walk by a house that served God, it said she felt kicking, like the baby almost wanted to come out. When she walked by a house of idolatry, she felt kicking. And she said, my kid is, I got a messed up kid. Huh? You know, either he wants to serve God, he wants to serve idols, make a choice. So he went to now it makes sense. He said, what's going on? Because the worst thing you could be is conflicted. If a person's on the wrong path, and at least he knows he's on a path, you can talk to the person. Just to go off the subject while I'm off the subject. Right? We find that when the Jewish people were serving idols, Eliyahu goes to them and says, either you serve God or you serve idols. And the commentaries say, Eliyahu, Elijah, a prophet of God, is giving people an option to serve idols. It's almost like saying, on Saturday, either go to the football game or come to synagogue. Rabbi, I have an option to go to the football game? I didn't know that was an option. I thought you had to come to shul. That's what Eliyahu, I mean, I'm not even giving a good example because it's not, going to the football game is not the opposite of going to shul. Eliyahu is giving them an option. How could it be? So it says, is that what Eliyahu, the time of Eliyahu faced a problem. The people, they would serve idols, and then they would come to the temple in Jerusalem. They would bring a sacrifice, a sin offering. Say they were sort of quasi-religious. When Eliyahu would try to reprimand them, rebuke them, and they would say, "Oh, what are you talking about? I go to shul." So imagine a guy, he wears payas and yarmulke and tzitzis, but he's a thief. He's honest, or he messes around with women, he doesn't behave. You go to him and say, hey, wait, what are you talking about? I'm a religious Jew. Yarmulke, tzitzis, beard, and I got the whole garb. That's...
Guns.
Everyone today has a gun, right? Some have M4s. I can't say that.
No, they don't, for the record.
No, I didn't say his name. He who must not be named, right?
Some have two.
Right? Yeah. So the thing is, if a person is confused, then you can't talk to them. They're lost. This is what Rivka's worried about. My kid's confused. So the prophet, the man of God, says to Rivka, your kid's not confused. You have two kids. You have one godly kid, and you have one who's not so godly. And then she walks away. She said, okay. And the prophet tells Rivka, these two are never going to get along. Either one's going to be up. When one's up, one's automatically down. It's like the economy, right? When the economy is doing well, bonds are low, right? When the economy is not doing well, bonds are up, right? That's the way it is. It has to work that way. So this is the way it is. This is the way it is by us. When the godly soul is doing well, the animal soul automatically is suffering. When the animal soul is not doing well, is doing very well, the godly soul. That means a person is indulging in food and running after every taiva. Taiva is every desire, right? And he's all bloated and was giving food because food is he comes to shows and he waddles in the shul. I'm going to daven, and he can't concentrate on prayer. Well, yeah, he just spent so much time, ensuring the great enhancement of your body. It's hard to think about God. That's why, according to halacha, you're not allowed to eat before davening in the morning. Do you know? When I say eat, a meal. Eat, I don't mean a snack. Some people can have a whole meal of snacks. That's a whole different problem. Right? Then we get Weight Watchers involved. But I mean is you're not allowed to have a meal before davening. Why? Because you can't daven properly. You can't pray properly if the first thing you do is you focus on yourself. As it is, it's hard enough to focus on God. So what do? We have a little snack to satisfy our body. Okay, I'll take care of you. Just So let's learn it inside. However, hine ksiv, it's written in Pashas Tolis, in Book of Genesis. One shall always prevail over the other. Either Esav is down or Yaakov is down. So we find very interesting in last week's parsha, Pasas Vayishlach. I don't know if you guys caught this when you're looking at the parsha. Did you realize in the seventh portion of last week's parsha? I know it's the end, and everyone wants the rabbi to finish already. But it says these were the kings that ruled in Edom before there was a king in Israel. You notice that? I don't know if everyone, but those kings, by the way, the Torah in the book of Genesis predicts events that are going to happen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later, way later. So, and the commentaries point out that whenever there was a king in Edom is descendant of Esav, there wasn't a king of Israel. When there was a king of Israel, there wasn't a king of Edom. Historically, because one's up, one's down. That's the way it is. And he says like this. The body is called a small city. There are two kings. There are two kings fighting for this one city. And the analogy of a king, by the way, is important. Because not two guys fighting for control. Because let's say, for example, there's just two guys. So say, listen, why can't you guys get along? You take part of the city, I'll take part of the city. And like they say in Hebrew, Shalom Yisrael, get along. In the words of Rodney King, why can't we all just get along? You guys remember who Rodney King is? You're from LA.
No, they don't remember.
I'm saying, but you remember, you know who Rodney King was? Rodney King was a man, huh?
PCP aficionado.
PCP?
He was signing PCP when he got beat up. That's why he was able to take.
What's PCP?
Angel dust, a drug.
It's a drug. Oh, sorry. I'm not good with the lingo. Yeah, baby.
Easiest thing to answer is I don't listen to people.
Right. PCP, primary care provider. Anyway, so he was a guy that got beat up by the cops in LA. I mean, it was caught on camera. They looked at the LA riots. Anyway, so afterwards he said something. He became very famous. He said, "Why can't we all get along?" So if we're just two guys hanging out, it's like, hey, why are you fighting all the time?
Yeah, but didn't he make that statement to quell the riots that were occurring in the city at that time?
I think so,
Like,
yeah.
he made it make a
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah, I mean,
They
look
were
at
pulling truckers out of the car. beating
yeah,
up
it
people.
was bad. I mean,
Koreans were shooting off their roofs.
the LA riots were bad. I think it was in 1991 or 2. It was very, very bad. Very, very bad.
Yeah, those were those years.
So the reason why the Alter Rebbe over here uses the word king is because by definition, king means absolute dominion. If Stalin, they say about Stalin had paranoia. Stalin had a lot of things. But Russia's a massive country. So who cares if there's a guy all the way in Georgia or somewhere all the way there that doesn't like you? But Stalin understood, in order to have autocracy, in order to have complete control, you can't have any naysayers. Huh?
Dissidents.
You can't have any dissonance. Thank you, Eric. Because the king means you're in absolute control. If there's an area where you don't have control, you're not king. So this is why the Alter Rebbe uses the term over here, kings, for the godly soul and the animal soul. They're fighting over the body, which is the city. And if they don't have absolute control, you're not king. That's what it is. So they're both fighting. Each one wants to conquer it and to control it. The Hainu and its populace. What's the populace? The populace are the organs, mind, and the speech, the hands. The Hainu lahani geshvim kretzoyne. What does the king mean? The king means you control the inhabitants according to your will. And they shall obey him according to all his decrees. Zakach, the same way is shtei nefashos, the two souls. Alikis, the godly one, v'chayunis habahamis. Here is the first time Alter Rebbe puts together the natural and the animal soul. He puts it together. Many times he just calls it the animal soul. Not because a person's natural soul is animalistic. It's because it shares animalistic tendencies. But the natural soul, the chayunis, just pumps, it just pumps blood throughout your body. That's not bad. That's natural. But the natural blood, klipa, which we learn, comes from klipa, which covers over godliness. They're fighting. So one day your godly soul can be the ruler. It's like the World War II. There were villages or towns that traded back and forth. So one day your godly soul can be the ruler. It's like, today we're going to put on tefillin. Today we're going to learn Torah. Today we're going to be amazing. Next day you wake up, and the animal soul asserts itself. Today, cake. What's after that? I don't know. But cake and then a bagel. Right?
And then a nap.
And then a nap. And some days davening feels like you're on fire. You pray with concentration. And some days you can't get through a word, and everything distracts you, and it's impossible. Because it's who's doing the talking. And this is the problem. Each being pulled in different directions. Your godly soul. The soul wants its divine rule, so to direct him. And all the person's limbs, he should be subject to its discipline to be totally nullified and completely surrendered to it. And to be a chariot. Your limbs don't have will. Your mouth doesn't just speak. Something's making it speak. So your limbs listen to the impulse, what it's ever driving it. We spoke about in chapter 4 that the godly soul wanted the three the garments. Remember, thought, speech, and action are garments. It's not essential. You can change what you think. You definitely can change what you say. Or if you say something, you be like a politician. You take it out of context, even if you say it, but out of context. and you could change what you act. So it wants its garments, the thought, speech, and action shall yubashu kulam to be fully clothed within the limbs of the body. Be a guf kule mole mehem levade, and the entire body should be permeated with the godly souls. Everything you do, godly. Everything you say, godly purpose. Everything you think about, godly. And no alien should pass through them. Now it's interesting. Alter says this. In the book of Devarim, when Moshe is talking about all the good things that will happen to the Jewish people if they follow the Torah, it says there'll be no war in the land of Israel and no sword will pass through the land. The rabbis say, obviously, if there's no war, there's no sword. What's with the double? So you're saying there's two types of peace. There's one type where there's no war, but sometimes you have armies threatening or foreign armies can pass through. I mean, especially if you keep in mind where Israel is. And now you have air travel and everything else. But in the old days, you get from Europe to Africa, Asia to Africa, you have to pass through the shortest land route was Israel. So you're saying the peace will be so complete that a foreign nation won't even pass through. They'll go around. They won't even want to mess with Israel. And there was a time like this. The times of King Solomon, Israel lived like in a total seclusion, so to speak. I mean, they weren't really secluded because people came to learn. But as far as war, no one ever came. So the godly soul wants its dominion to be so absolute that even a foreign thought won't even pass through. Because we're going to learn, many times you'll have a foreign thought, and what do you have to do? You got to push it out. Even that, the godly soul doesn't want. It doesn't even want you to even have that impulse. Nothing. You shouldn't see any.
Is it true that sometimes the thought is worse than the action?
Yeah, many times, because an action is separate from you. But when a person, using the word thought, it's not thought, it's thinking.
Thinking. Okay.
No. That's a very big difference out there it makes.
Why did we tell you about thinking?
Exactly.
Well,
What
the
did we
thought
tell you
isn't a
about
thought
talking?
populating your head, and thinking is like you bringing that into action with intent, as opposed to a random thought that.
What the Alter Rebbe is saying here is, he's going to say in Tanya, he's going to explain, a thought pops into your head involuntarily. You can't control that. The animal soul, or the godly soul, spurs that on. You can't. Thinking means when you dwell on it. That's an action. When you take the time to do something. So you can't control the thought. You can't control what you think about. Now, Alter Rebbe doesn't say, stop thinking about it. Alter Rebbe says, think about something else. You can't stop thinking.
And what did you mean when you said that the action is separated from you?
Yeah, so when you think about something, you're internalizing it more. So if a person thinks things that he shouldn't, it can kind of stay with him. But an action has a beginning, middle, and an end. So yes, it does have an impact because
You did it.
he did it, and also it's hard to take it back. But
It's also the external world too.
Right.
When you thought it's internal.
Yeah.
and if you want to get Kabbalistic, about it, we're here to refine the material world. That's why all the mitzvot are with material things, because we're here to refine the material world. So it has when a person does something wrong, it has a more of a negative bottom line impact, as opposed to thinking. Remember we learned about the whole thing back in chapter 7.
We won't hold you accountable.
Now there are some guys who can tell you the page and the line.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys. All right. Rabbi Naftali, he's one of those guys. Yeah, he's amazing. Me, I was joking with somebody. That's why I'm in Pembroke Pines. That's why he's still in Brooklyn. I'm in Pembroke Pines, right? the lower the sphere of influence, right?
Little Crown Heights,
Yeah. So we spoke about the difference, about wasteful emission of seed, as opposed to it being with a woman you're not allowed to, right? There, it's an action that has a much more of an impact. Therefore, it's harder to correct, but doesn't make that affair any less. Makes it in a lot of ways it's worse. So you'll see many times in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe will present things in different ways. Sometimes Torah is better, sometimes mitzvah is better, sometimes action is better, sometimes speech is better. all depends on how you look at it. That's the beautiful thing about Torah. It's for everybody, and not everybody's the same. Some things are easier for you, some things are harder for you. So everybody has their place. Everyone has their challenge also. Okay, let's continue. What I was saying here. The Hainu. What does that mean? The Hainu, what does that mean? What is that? Am I still recording? Because I'm getting calls. Am I still recording?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number's still going up.
All right.
It's still got a red square.
The Hainu, what does that mean? Tlas moichin shebereish. The three parts of the brain. Doesn't mean three parts of the brain biologically. Remember we learned? Can you pause it? Can you pause the video? Stop the video. Okay. So the three parts of the brain, meaning, remember we learned about in chapter 3, your intellect. The soul has 10 faculties, and the intellect is divided into 3: conception, comprehension, and contemplation and application. Chachma bina das. So the Chabad, Chachma bina das, should be Melui mechabad should be filled with the Chabad of the godly soul. Shechachmas Hashem ubinasai, which is the wisdom of Hashem and its understanding. Which means, and how do you do this? What does it mean that your brain should be filled with understanding of God? To contemplate and this is what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. Everybody can understand God's greatness at his own level. That means everyone could relate to God, to Hashem being awesome at his own level. That means you look outside, even if you don't know science and atoms and all that, you don't understand. But you look outside, sequoia trees, and you look up. I remember as a kid going to Manhattan. My father.
Sequoias in Manhattan?
Listen, and I remember trying to see the top.
It's called the Empire State Building.
No, it was the World Trade
Chrysler
Center.
Building.
I remember we tried to see this top of the Empire State Building. Sometimes it was clouds. My father was a truck driver. You sometimes go through Manhattan. You look up and you look up and you look up. It doesn't, you can't help but be awed by it. It's something that's tremendous. And some people say, "Oh, big deal." Everyone has their thing that they can be affected. Nobody is immune. There's something that impresses you. So what a person thinks about, these things didn't come about on its own. There's a God that created it, and that's only a little bit, but he's actually an infinite greatness. And once a person thinks about that, what's the result? When you're awed by it, right? When you saw the first time a picture, let's say Grand Canyon or some beautiful mountain, you say, I would love to go there. Right? You feel or I saw a video. They're saying in a certain part of India, tigers kill a crazy amount of human beings. There's the videos of the human beings on top of elephants, and the tigers just jump up and kill them. So one tiger killed like 5 people on top of an elephant. You know what a reaction is? Not going to India. Tiger-proof suit?
Yeah, the bear suits. So you can't catch them.
I didn't even know they made such a thing.
India is an amazing place.
I don't know. They make a lot of things. So,
Never saw tigers there.
no, but you went to the wrong part of India.
I think I went to the right parts of India.
It all depends how you frame it, right? Tiger's hungry, man. Tiger's gonna eat. Right.
COVID before anyone else.
So the point is, when you understand something, you have a feeling of emotion. So either when the person thinks about God. So what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here, the reason why it's close, because sometimes you always have to circle back to the foundation of Tanya. Alter Rebbe is saying it's really close. Why don't we feel it? Because you don't stop to think. If you just stop to think, then automatically, Hashem's world is awesome. Wherever, right? You look in pictures of beautiful places, Google Earth. Hashem's world is awesome. Either you can love it or you can be in awe of it, whatever it is. All you got to do is stop, smell the roses, look around. And what's going to happen is you'll have Avas Hashem, and as a result of that, through this knowledge, Hayira, the fear, or Pachad, or the dread. Fear and dread are different things. One is closer, one's further away. Dread is when it's right before you. That's dread. Yira is a little bit more distant. Or v'havas Hashem ke'esh b'yre b'libay krish b'shleves. Or you have a love of Hashem burning burning in your heart. Leah is like it says in Tehillim, to borrowing the words of King David, Nichsefa, I thirst, v'gam kol sanafshi, I pine with desire, v'chashecha v'chafetza, will longing to cleave to God, l'davka b'bein seif. You want to know what yearning means, right? Imagine you've been away from your parents, you want to go home, or imagine those parents, the kids are in Gaza. That's yearning. They feel it. They feel it. They feel it in the heart. And you feel b'chol leiv v'nefesh me'ed, and they feel with all their soul and their might. So that's why it says v'havta es Hashem lekecha, shall love Hashem b'chol levavcha, with your whole heart. And it says with all your hearts. What does that mean? With your godly soul and your body soul, all your soul, even if it means giving up your life, all your might. All your might. That line has been studied. What does it mean? It's been interpreted many ways. But what we're saying over here, all your might means, if you think about it, he'll have this burning desire, because here he's so great, and I'm here, and he's there, and I want to close. I don't want to close it. I want to close the distance. So let's read the note here. With all your heart means that a heart is filled with love for Hashem. All your soul implies that the soul spills over beyond the heart to affect the organs. You don't just feel it in here, like the Jews say, "I'm a Jew at heart." You can't just be a Jew at heart. You got to also feel it in your body, and feet, for example. And all your might means loving God to the point will sacrifice himself. And where does this come from? Does it come from the brain? Because emotions aren't felt in the brain. This comes from the heart. Remember, we learned last week that it's in the right side of the heart. From the depths of the heart, it's in the right side. He has this love is from within, and it's overflowing. So Alter Rebbe says in this line, every Jew loves God. But the question is that love staying inside, or is it coming out? Sometimes you have to show love to people. Like the old joke. A couple goes to therapy. And the woman says to the therapist, my husband never tells me he loves me. 25 years. Never told me he loves me. So the therapist asks the husband and says, it's true? He says, yeah. So he says, how come you don't ever tell her? He says, I told her I loved her 25 years ago. If anything changes, I'll let her know.
It's funny you say that, because when my parents got married in '69, my father told that to my mom, and he's probably told her a handful of times in between, but only a handful. He's like, when we got married, I told you I loved you, and I love you till the day I die.
That's it. If anything changes.
I'll let you know.
Exactly. You'll hear from my agent, right? Yep. My people will call your people, right? But so he's saying it's not enough just to love; it has to overflow.
But what do you mean that the love will?
Because every Jew loves God. Every Jew has a connection to God, right? Every parent has a connection to a kid,
Yeah.
right? And every parent loves their kid. Now, sometimes the love can be manifested in an unhealthy way, but every parent loves their kid. But it's not just enough that I love my kid. It means you take care of your kid. You do things for your kid. It's expressed in different ways. So when you love somebody, when you love something, let's say for example, you like tennis, right? Sure. Or I don't know anything about tennis. Like football. You know what I'm saying?
Go back to tennis.
Go back to tennis. I'm saying, but somebody, let's say for example, you go to a football game, right, or a baseball game, or a tennis. Tennis doesn't have jerseys.
Or the U.S. Open.
Right.
Whatever.
But I can't give the example because I don't know anything about it.
Did you live in Miami?
Right. What I'm saying is, somebody who loves something, a sport or an idea, they don't just love it. They have paraphernalia. They have memorabilia. They have stuff laying around. You see that they're says that I love the Dolphins. You love the Dolphins. You love the Yankees. I have a shirt. I have this. I have a Mickey Mantle in a rookie card. I have a racket signed by Arthur Ashe. I don't know. See. There you go.
I like the name dropping.
Yeah. Come from New York. There's a stadium there in Queens. That's the only thing I know. Right?
It's got a middle school named after him in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, listen. So the point is, when you love something, it's not going to remain in your heart. If you truly love, you have to show. It has to express itself. So the difference is, with football, tennis, and pizza. You don't actually love it. It just makes you excited. So if you don't buy anything, you don't express it, then it's not true. But with God, it's actually the opposite. You actually do. Every Jew has that connection. The only question is, are you going to show it?
So you're saying that when it stays in, you don't necessarily show it? When
It's unhealthy if it
it's-
stays in.
Yeah, when it's out,
An unhealthy Jew doesn't show his love for God. So a Jew who doesn't do a mitzvah
Yeah.
is an unhealthy Jew.
or one that tells you where was Hashem on October 7th.
That's a good question. That's one thing has nothing to do with the other. That's a good question. Where was that God from 1939 to 1945? Where was God from 1648 to 16? These are all valid questions.
Yeah.
But the saying is, let's say a parent doesn't take care of their kid, or worse, neglects their kid, or does something harmful to the kid. Why are we shocked? If someone punches someone else in the face, we're there. But if a parent hurts their kid, we say, you're not normal. Why? Because naturally, a parent loves their kid. So there's something wrong. It's not functioning. You're not functioning like a healthy parent. Going back to what we said in chapter 8. The natural state of a Jew is Judaism. A Jew naturally has a connection to God. If he doesn't function that way, there's something wrong. Now, by the way, something wrong doesn't mean it's his fault. It could be he was never taught how to love. Right? Being taught how to love means you taught the beauty of tefillin, you taught the beauty of Shabbos, you taught the beauty of kosher, you taught the beauty of it. That's how you love God. We're going to cover this in a different place, but we'll say it now. There's a crazy law. It's a very controversial law. No, I shouldn't say crazy, but to us it's crazy. The law in the Torah is if a man and woman don't like each other and they want to get divorced, so the writ of divorce has to be issued by the man. That's what it says in the Torah. You have any problems with it? Take it up with the boss. Don't ask me a question. That's the way God, he made the law, not me. Okay? So the problem is, what happens if a man doesn't want to divorce his wife? He wants to punish her. He wants to string her along. This happens till today, you should know. Unfortunately, there's more than one or two women around the world that suffer from this. So according to Maimonides, this is the law. Listen, you ready for this? It doesn't sound Jewish, but maybe Maimonides was, had Tony, and The Godfather. He watched The Godfather and he wrote this law. Michael Corleone, right? When he wrote this law.
I think it's Sopranos.
I'm
Mixing up the errors here, Rabbi.
I'm behind in my.
Does he have any horses?
Yeah. So the law is exactly. The law is we take this guy, we beat him. Literally, this is the law. We beat him until he says, "I'll give the divorce." Now, Maimonides is a book of law, not a book of psychology. But Maimonides right away says, "What kind of game is that? If he has to willingly issue the divorce and you're beating him, obviously, he's not willingly giving the divorce. He's only giving it because you're beating him." So Maimonides says something in a book of law, not in a book of philosophy or in a book of Kabbalah. He says this as law. He says this: every Jew wants to do what God says. It's only his Yetzer Hara, his evil inclination, is covering over that connection. So what do you got to do? You got to beat that Yetzer Hara a little bit, because your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination, identifies with the body. So you weaken the body a little bit, and then the neshama could come out.
I like the Maimonides a bit more of a violence approach. They have the same about when they look at whether we should go after all
Just picturing
all
Maimonides.
Gazans or not. Their approach is.
You hear what Maimonides says about these religious fanatics?
The religious fanatics.
Yeah, because those people think we serve God. Those crazy people, it says or disillusioned, silly people think we serve God because at the end of life we experience pretty women. I didn't say experience. He uses, and we wear nice clothes and eat good food. He says, those guys are schmucks. Doesn't say those words, but yeah, that's basically what he says. Yeah, they're totally, saying this. I'm telling you, Maimonides he was watching violent video games and but that's it. But this is accepted Jewish law philosophy that every Jew is naturally connected to God. It's a question of, are you going to bring it out or not? And that choice is up to you. So if a person is going to occupy himself with everything else, yeah, it's very hard to feel that connection. That's that's the truth. Well, let's finish to the next one. Ad. So now, what's the goal? What's the goal of the nefesh elokis? This is, again, we're touching on very fundamental concepts here. I know the class is going long, but the nefesh elokis doesn't want to fight anymore. He wants the animal soul to want what he wants. Like a guy says, Joe goes, he says, a comedian once heard, he said, I was in a fight with my wife. We weren't talking. So he decided, let's break the ice. Let's go out to dinner. So the waiter comes and says, you guys ready to order? So me being a gentleman, I said, honey, I said, what do you want? She says, you want to know what I want? I want you to know what I want. I turned to the lawyer, says, the waiter said, we're going to need a while. Right? What the godly soul wants is that the animal soul should not be overpowered and should not be a forceful participant. Should be a willing participant. And he says, Ad, if I pass me the book by me, the Torah study book. Ad shenispashit gam l'chol asmali, until it pours over also to the left heart. Kafia sitrachra, and here we are introduced to a new concept. In Kabbalah, there's something called iskafia, and there's something called isabcha. These are Aramaic words. Do you have iskafia and isabcha yet?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. So iskafia and isabcha are two types of service of God.
And you're saying it's pronounced akafia?
Ikafia, or sometimes it's with a tough. Itkafia.
Akafia, okay.
So there's two terms. One is iskafia, and one is isabcha. What is it? Iskafia means to subdue. Iskafia means to hold back. So it means you have a desire, and you want it. Not that you don't want it. You want the chocolate cake. You want the ice cream. You say, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to give in to that impulse. That is iskafia. So I guess you control it as it's self-control. That's number one. Then you have isabcha. Isabcha means like hofech, to turn over. What originally was a desire for one is now a desire for something else. That means the body is not only not a combatant and an enemy of godly soul. Now it's used in the service of Hashem. That's already a level. That's a tzaddik. Now we find this. Who's the ultimate example? Who's the ultimate example of this? Moshe. It says every other prophet experienced some physical trauma from when God spoke to them. Their bodies would shake, convulse. They would have seizures. They would lose control of their senses. They were sleeping, or Hashem only appeared to them in the sleep. Moshe spoke to God like we're speaking now. Like when you speak, it doesn't affect me, right? Because when Hashem spoke to Moshe, it was smooth. Why? Because Moshe's body was a pure conduit for godliness. That's why the whole book of Devarim is said Moshe speaking, but it's in the Torah. The book of Deuteronomy, the fifth book, it says these are the words that Moshe spoke, but it's in the Torah. And sometimes we see Shema Yisrael, by the way, is in the Torah, is in the book of Devarim. And what does it say? These words, Asher, Anochi, that I am commanding. Who's commanding? Moshe is commanding. Hashem's commanding. But Moshe was a total conduit for godliness. So that's the ultimate goal of the godly soul. To subdue the left heart, the Yisayda Maim Hareim Shaba, looking for another way. To the element of water, which is Hatayva Shmeklibas Nega, which is the lust, which goes after all these other things. And again, the Alter Rebbe is not talking about sin over here. Alter was talking about kosher ice cream, kosher cake. Obviously, you're not doing anything wrong. But that's obviously. That's like the line of the Alter Rebbe. What you're not allowed to do, you don't do. And what you're allowed to do, you don't have to do. That's what we're talking about over here. So what was a desire now for chocolate cake, that lust, now to page 143, l'shanaisa, to change it, elohabcha, and to turn it over, matanugi oilam hazeh, l'avas Hashem. From having pleasure in chocolate cake, to have pleasure in serving God. Now that's a level. Sometimes we force ourselves to do a mitzvah, but we really want the bagel and the cream cheese. But the Rebbe Rashab said there's a level to have pleasure in doing a favor for another person. That you, not that, okay, the other person benefits. You should have pleasure. You feel good from doing a mitzvah. That's a level. That your body should be excited about doing a mitzvah. K'ma shekasuv, like it says, b'chol levavcha, with your hearts, b'shnei yitzarecha, and that's what it says. It doesn't say you should love Hashem with your heart. It says that you should love Hashem with your hearts. Both hearts, b'shnei tzrecha, with both inclination, with your good inclination and your evil inclination. Your inclination to serve God, for sure, and the evil inclination, which was once an evil inclination, now should serve Hashem. V'hainu, and this means sheyalev v'yavoy v'yagia. Again, Alter Rebbe is using words from the Yalav v'yavoy we say in Rosh Chodesh. Should elevate and arrive and reach l'madregas ava rabba, the level of such great love, abundant love, v'chiba and yiseres, and tremendous loves, surpassing yiserim, surpassing madregas ava azakadosh b'reish. I mean, I think maybe because Alter Rebbe is every line is dropping another bomb here. I know each of these are high concepts, and it's already late. So I think it'll be worthwhile for us to readdress it. But we'll later, remind me this next week if I don't. There's a love of abundant love, and there's burning love. Abundant love is high, consistent love. Burning love is you feel a desire. It's different. But this is what the goal is. Now the problem is, again, that as much as the godly soul wants to serve God and that burning desire for God, the animal soul is like, woohoo, cheesecake, So you can't.
Jets.
No. That's where the exile comes from. If the godly soul will get the animal soul
Jets
to focus on the
number one.
jets, the animal soul would be broken, and it would be perfect. The problem.
I'm only messing with them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so next week is Hanukkah. I think we're not going to have class next week because we're lighting Menorah. Everyone's with their family. It's going to be also next Tuesday night is the concert. So we'll pick it up. Pick it up in 2 weeks. All right, Ira? Any questions, by the way?